long-term support through staff augmentation and managed services. With over 20 years of experience, our team works as an extension of our clients' teams, delivering a client-centric approach that helps organizations maximize the value of their ERP investment. Today's presentation, JDE Tools Release Security and Risk Assessments, is led by Nick Wilson, ERP-One's Innovation and Technology Lead. Nick has been with ERP-One for 15 years and brings extensive expertise in project management, digital transformation, architecture design and review, as well as upgrade planning and execution. And a few housekeeping notes before we begin. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the comment box and we'll address them during the Q&A at the end. And don't worry about missing anything. As always, this webinar is being recorded and we will share the recording with you afterwards via email. And with that, I'll hand it over to Nick to get us started. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Marcella, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar. Today we're going to go over some of the security vulnerabilities that are included with the latest critical patch update. From there, we're going to assess some of the ways that we can mitigate those challenges, as well as some upgrade strategies. And we're going to review those in terms of release management. I'm going to go over a couple system admin features as well that are included with 9.2.9 that you will be able to take advantage of once you apply the tools upgrade update if you do so. So let's dive in here. In terms of Oracle and critical patching, Oracle does release critical or patching on a regular cadence for the various systems. When it comes to E1 and Oracle specifically, the areas that we're focusing in on are on the different technology layers that they support. So if you are running Oracle database, some of the patching would be specific to Oracle databases. If we're referring, or if you are patching for WebLogic, and we're talking about Oracle, those come in the form of WebLogic patches. When it comes to JD Edwards, and that's our topic for today, Oracle also provides patching for the ERP specifically. And when it comes to JD Edwards, that patching comes in the form of tools updates. And so when we look at these critical patches, again, they're released, on a cadence, and depending on the software that they're being patching for, that cadence can be different. For JD Edwards, they have a major release every year, and this yearly patching comes out in January. And so Oracle highlights all of the different issues or the vulnerabilities as CVEs, and that's the listing on the left. And I know that this is a little bit of an eye chart, and we have two more screens, but I won't go through all of it. What I will say is that, or you can find this information on the Oracle website easily. I think there is a link later on. And this information, as I said, comes out yearly. And Oracle gives each of these vulnerabilities, and that's what the line item is here, a base score. And so this base score is the first place every January that I look at when these releases are made public. And I immediately look and filter on that list there. Looking for the highest vulnerabilities. Those are the ones that I'm most interested in. And I choose a base score of 7.5 or higher. Not that I look at the other ones or don't look at the other ones, but there is some reasoning for that. But those are that's the score that I use. Excuse me. And looking at this release, we see we've got 4 vulnerabilities listed at the top that are above 7.5. Now, and I know that these ones down below here are also above 7.5, and I've left them, but they are cloud specific. So depending on some of the services that we're utilizing, and how they interact with different clouds, we are looking at some patching for those groupings together. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're going to focus just on the top four. Not that they're less critical, but they apply to everybody. And they are all around the security framework within JD Edwards and focusing on the non-HTTP protocol or non-secure HTTP protocol, not HTTPS. And so with the findings of these vulnerabilities, what Oracle is saying is that, hey, your JDE system has a problem with these areas, and they're pretty critical. And so in order to fix this, we need to apply a tools update. And that code would be able to patch these areas in here. And so that is one and the recommended sort of mitigating response that you can do to sort of plug these holes. Certainly, and we'll go through that, there is another option here, but we will look at that in a second. As I mentioned here, we're focusing on these four that are of primary concern. And so when assessing some of your, vulnerability of the system, these are going to be at top of mind. And so again, I'm not going to go through all of these ones, but these are the rest of the critical vulnerabilities that Oracle has highlighted. And the one here that I wanted to overview, because it does connect it later on, is a vulnerability for HTTPS. And so it has a score of 6.5, which is, below my threshold per se. But what we wanted to highlight here is if looking at implementing SSL as a fix for some of these issues previously, which again, I will review. This is not a concern, but there is an area here where we would still have an open vulnerability, and that's still a tools release. We'll need to fix that hole there. Okay, and so when we talk about upgrading tools releases and some strategies, there's a little bit of level setting in terms of continuous delivery and, what does that mean essentially? And so really it does mean release management. Looking at a timeline, time scale, Oracle releases the major tools versions every year, and again, corresponding with the security patching. And those in between those yearly major releases, they also have some minor releases. And those minor releases provide features, sometimes bug fixes as well, but not really platform certifications. That does come into play here. And then finally, we also have this change management. It's not just tools, but ESUs and some of the fixed current components that go into the business processes inside of JD Edwards. And so that's kind of the other side of the coin, and something that the security vulnerabilities that we discussed earlier do not touch. All of those vulnerabilities that we spoke about earlier, or that were listed earlier, are related and are fixed only with the tools release. And so when applying or looking to, upgrade, if you want to primarily fix those security issues, you do not need to apply, the ESUs, just the tools components. And then that comes to, the release management program, or again, what is the right cadence? And again, looking at the security vulnerabilities, if one of the goals is to stay current all the time, applying a tools upgrade project yearly would definitely satisfy that type of approach. When looking at, again, wanting to patch those security holes. And talking or speaking about upgrading and release management, There's two main ways of applying these tools releases onto your system. Again, with respect to upgrading and applying those patches. So the first way is an in-place upgrade, where we have the system and its existing state. So some tools released prior to tools 9.2.9, and it needs to be upgraded to the latest tools 9.2.9. We can do that if the certifications are in place. And so your system, if it is already on, obviously, a Windows foundation, let's just say on Windows Server 2019, and the latest tools release, tools 9.2.9, does not support Windows 2019, you will unable to be able to apply the in-place upgrade, and you will need to do the second option, which is a parallel infrastructure or parallel upgrade. This will require new infrastructure. It will also have two sets of environments, and the environments will get migrated from one infrastructure over to the second set of infrastructure. The go live in that scenario is a data conversion. And again, we have two systems running at the same time. And the reason that I'm mentioning this, all of this now, again, in relation to these vulnerabilities, is that if we want to fix those vulnerabilities or upgrade this tools release, most customers, due to some certification changes from Oracle, may have to upgrade their operating system, especially when running Windows primarily. And so that approach here I've tried to highlight, and again, with a little bit of an eye chart here, but we have a timeline across the top of the screen where I've highlighted the previous releases of JD Edwards, starting with the initial release of 9.2 in 2015. Since then, I've put the certifications of all of the different Windows operating systems, and all of this information you can get from Oracle as well. But we can see here that if we wanted to upgrade to tools 9.2.9, it only supports Windows 2022. And so again, customers who want to fix those vulnerabilities, but are on the older Windows 2019 tools release, they will need to do or perform that in-place upgrade. And something that they may or may not be prepared to do, again, given that they may have just upgraded potentially. And so the reason that this is a little bit different in the past is some of the changes, probably from COVID, with software vendors in general, are streamlining and smoothing out their release schedule of the different operating systems. And Oracle is streamlining and smoothing out the certification process as well, and will go with, I believe, a model where there will be less operating systems supported at any one time, and that customers, again, will need to upgrade more along the lines of Oracle's certification system, rather than, if they want to take the vulnerabilities, rather than leaving or staying on their older operating system. So with Windows, this primarily is a problem right now. Looking at IBM, there is not the same problem. If they wanted to, if you're an IBM customer running iSeries, if you're supported today running V7, R4, or R5, you will be supported on tools 9.2.9. And so if you wanted to fix those vulnerabilities, that is easier to do. Similarly with Oracle or Linux, sorry, Red Hat Linux or Oracle Enterprise Linux, there is a certification upcoming for 9, but if you are currently supported or running on 8, that is the only supported system. And so if you are on 7 or below now, but want to upgrade, you will need to do an OS or platform change. With AIX, I've left this one in here. We have a couple AIX customers, and if you are one, you're already aware of the long-term support for AIX 7.2, and that these are not a problem at all for these operating systems, and a more, I would say, a expedient approach you can utilize for applying the tools upgrades. Okay, so looking at some alternatives, you might be thinking that you want to upgrade the tools and that you would like to fix those vulnerabilities, and that that is a good thing, certainly. But doing a parallel upgrade or even an in-place upgrade is not just an easy thing to accomplish. Depending on your scope and the type of project, it can be quickly achieved for sure, but it can also take a long time, especially when we're talking about provisioning hardware infrastructure, virtual or physical. It does take a little time. And so the alternative, and I teased it earlier, is applying some SSL to the various vulnerability points. And that primarily is focusing on the end user web ports. And so disabling all of the existing non-SSL ports, which normally we leave those on or are left on, but that does provide a risk area. And so turning off all of those ports, as well as other administrative ports, AIS server and connections, those ports, all can be turned into SSL and encrypted. While you're doing the encryption, and again, as an alternative, there are a few other places where you could apply SSL or TLS inside of JD Edwards, which is a good practice just to do all around as well. And those areas are in LDAP, the communication to and from directory services, some kernel interconnectivity on the JDE net kernels, and then on database connectivity through ODBC. Okay, so when it comes to, the next block here is talking about a couple system admin features. And there we'll get to the summary and maybe have some time for questions. For system administration and some of the latest features, the biggest one for me, especially as a CNC and an administrator of systems, will be the development client simplification. And so this is fairly robust, but it will allow customers to remove the web server components of development clients. And so today, when in a normal installation where a customer has multiple developers running on the system, they would have different virtual machines with the FAT client installed on it, as well as a web component. This allows developers to do coding or SMEs or BAs to do configuration as well. And then once those changes are saved, they could view them on the web, or what would look like a web server or the web front end of JD Edwards. But in the back end, that development client would be running a small web server on their machine. And that little mini instance of a web server was very overly complex to install and took a very long time. And if you've ever done it before, it was prone to a variety of problems. And so now what Oracle has done is simplified the development client by moving the web server portion on the local machine and pushing it to the web server that you choose. So it is a little bit easier for installation, certainly a lot easier when you're installing a web client. You don't need to install WebSphere or WebLogic any longer. You don't need to run the feature installation or any of the other configuration items that were required when switching environments. Now, the solution is that everything that was currently running locally will be running on the web now, on a web server. Specs that were local are already on the database, and so using and connecting to those specs is a little bit easier. But things like debugging and passing serialized objects has been more complexity, yes, but it has been automated so that a lot of those items are sending information from the development client through Server Manager to the web server. And so this diagram, although is very not confusing, but it is complex, shows that a lot of the calls that previously were happening on the development client are still in place now, including the ER debugger or the BPM broker, as well as the Active Console. All of those things still run, but instead of running locally, they will be passing data into the central objects to business data, as well as through the web server and the logic servers. And so this will, increase the complexity of, architecture, maybe understanding where the developers need to go and look. It will certainly decrease installation problems of the FAT client and moving away from Windows and having that reliance on those Windows clients. So that's a really interesting one, and which is affecting us and a lot of our customers. And the last one I'll go over here is an optimized package build feature, but really it's a set of uplifts. And the main, really, the takeaway is that they have changed the way that they do the full package. And essentially, they bypass all of the double package build times that needs to happen. And so really, they make it more efficient so that it just compiles and builds only the components that have changed, and they will again streamline much of the extra processing that was previously required is no longer now. And so package builds are down to 85% of the original time, making them extremely fast and effective as well. And so that's an area that will allow customers to change some of their change management or release management approaches when it comes to custom code and pushing code to production, as they will be able to do more frequent full package builds, even during the day potentially, as well as understanding how they can push code more frequently into production if they want to choose to do so. Okay, so that brings us to the last 5 minutes here, and really the summary of our presentation here. And it's if you want to know more about the security vulnerabilities, tools upgrades, or implementing SSL, please reach out, scan this QR code. We could access our calendars. But what we're hearing a lot from customers are some of these 5 barriers for upgrades, and we certainly have varied solutions to address each of them, from reducing cost by utilizing optimized timelines, automation, and other software and components to decrease the overall time of the project. A second barrier that is limiting for customers that want to upgrade frequently, we can't do a tools or a parallel upgrade and have it take 3 months and do it every year. That wouldn't make sense at all. And so trying to, or sorry, creating a system that will allow us to reduce the overall timeline, include testing that can be automated or is focused to just the net change areas, is key to a successful project. We also are able to provide the right resources at the right time that will ultimately reduce overall disruption of your business and allow for you to focus on what you are doing, what you do best, and allow ERP-One to implement and upgrade the system in a quick manner as well. Finally, and everybody is focused on this, is infrastructure limitations. And whether it is for cloud vendors or some templates of on-prem solutions of delivering a right-sized approach with the right resources when they are available. That is one of our mantras. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Marcella for any questions or comments.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. We did have a couple questions come in. So the first one is, if the tools release in place today is 9.2.8, is there support to go with tools 9.2.8, then do a Windows in place upgrade to server 2022, then do tools 9.2.9 upgrade?
Yes, so that certainly could be an option for customers that want to do an in-place OS upgrade and get to the later release. You could also do a big bang, or at least all of that at once, both the tools and the OS upgrade. However, the vulnerability fix is not included with tools 9.2.8. It has cycled into the deprecating support mode, although it's only 1 year old. Oracle is supporting new platform certifications only on the latest release. So they won't backfill some of those support options. And as far as the CPU fixes go, there does not seem to be support in the 9.2.8 tools versions.
Amazing. Thank you. And one more question came in. If the web is running on your web server and not the FAT client, is it recommended to have a dedicated web server for this purpose?
Yeah, so with a normal development web server, the load on it is normally low. And so there is no problem with having the dev users using the regular non-prod web servers. That being said, it is well, not overly, but it is configurable so that you can have your developers going to essentially any web server that you'd like. And so from that perspective, they can be together or separated out. Uh, as far, and again, this is a brand new feature, and so there isn't a lot of real world examples. But the architecture and the volume of connectivity between the the dev client, and now the database, the web server, the enterprise server is increased. And so I would be interested to see the load on it, both on the server itself, on the dev client itself, and on the web servers. It certainly will make life easy. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, perfect. Well, we are at time. So, and that was it for questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you missed any part of the webinar, don't worry, it has been recorded and I will be sending it out via email to all attendees, along with a post-webinar survey. And as a thank you for completing the survey, you will receive a Starbucks gift card as a token of our appreciation. Also, just a little reminder, if you do scan the QR code on the screen, it can book a meeting directly with Matt, our CRO, via his Calendly link. In the meantime, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We regularly share helpful tips, insights, and blog posts, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you and have a great day.